most of us love traveling, but most of us suffer from motion sickness. And then we always pop up the pill Avomine, and that puts you off to sleep, because the side effect of Avomine is it gives you drowsiness and sedation. So one ends up actually sleeping during the travel and stops enjoying the beauty and the nature's beauty during traveling. But if you use scopolamine transdermal patch, it needs to be put just behind the ear. And this patch will relieve you of the motion sickness, but at the same time will not give you any side effect of sedation or drowsiness. And that will keep you awake, and you can still enjoy the traveling and enjoy the beauty of the nature during traveling. Then you have another transdermal patch over here, which contains siligeline, which is again for the treatment of Parkinsonism. There are quite a few steroidal drugs which have been successfully formulated into transdermal delivery system. You can see Androderm patch over here, which gives you, which is for the treatment of hypogonadism. Then you can also see estradiol and Xulane patch, which is actually a contraceptive patch, which is to be used by women. Then on the left hand corner, you can see nitroglycerin transdermal delivery system, typically used for prevention of ischemic heart disease. Now, if you look at the market status of transdermal formulations, as per the survey that was done by Markets and Markets in 2019, there are 40 APIs that are available as transdermal patches in the market. And then there are 70 more APIs that could be, that are in the clinical pipelines. Now, the survey that is done by Markets and Market actually shows 7.1 USD worth market share for transdermal formulation in 2000 by 2023, and the cumulative annual growth rate of the transdermal market is 4.5%. So if these transdermal delivery systems have got so many advantages, why only 40 molecules are available as transdermal patches? Actually, all the drugs can be put into transdermal delivery systems, and you can actually get rid of their side effects and get constant drug blood levels, and can get sustained release, and can get a patient-friendly delivery system. But unfortunately, that is not possible. And the reason for it is the skin. Now, if you look at now in this picture, you can see the transverse section of the human skin. We have to really thank our skins, and because of this skin, our human race is surviving. That's because the stratum corneum, the topmost layer of the epidermis of human skin, actually is the toughest barrier, and it doesn't allow any outside microbes or viruses or any harsh chemicals or any xenobiotics to enter inside the body. And at the same time, the skin also protects the valuable internal organs and internal parts, and it doesn't allow anything valuable from inside of the body to go outside. Now, if you look at the structure of the skin, it consists of epidermis, dermis, and then subcutaneous layer. Now, if you let's look at the epidermis comprises, as I told you already, of the uppermost layer called as stratum corneum, and then viable epidermis. And then beneath the viable epidermis lies the dermis. I want you to focus your attention on the constituents that are present in the dermis. And down below, you can see that there are sensory nerve endings that are present in the layer of dermis. But these sensory nerve endings are not present in the epidermis. So please mark this and please remember this. This is going to be useful for us later on as I run through my presentation. So because of this, and then once you put the drug, or once you put the transdermal patch on the surface of the skin, the drug present in the patch can actually go through one of these routes and reach the systemic circulation. So the drug can either take the intracellular route, or that is also called as transcellular route. It can take up the intercellular route, or also called as paracellular route. Or then hydrophilic small molecules can actually follow the transappendageal routes. Now, you know, transappendageal route is available for the skin because the skin has got certain appendages like hair follicles and sweat ducts that are present on the skin, and only hydrophilic small molecules can actually go into systemic circulation by following transdermal appendageal routes or transappendageal route. This route is not a very significant route because it only 1% of the total human skin actually occupies or is occupied by the appendages. So it's a very minor route of drug administration. The main route by which the drug can find the entry into systemic circulation is transcellular or paracellular route. If you look at the typical structure of stratum corneum consists of corneocytes, which are filled with keratin, and it also consists of the lipid matrix in which these corneocytes are embedded. So if the drug has to cross this barrier, it has to either go through the corneocytes, that is follow the transcellular route, or it can go through the intracellular route or intercellular route, or it has to go through the lipid matrix. Someone out there is saying that they cannot hear the voice. Am I audible?
You're audible. It's clear. Your voice is so clear, ma'am.
Yeah, but then somebody has just chatted that no voice.
No. It's so clear than previous.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, ma'am. You can. Okay, ma'am.
So I'll continue. Yeah. So these are the three routes, and then the drug has to actually follow the transcellular route, and that means it has to go through the and go through the corneocytes, or it has to follow the paracellular route and pass the lipid matrix. So only few drugs can do that. So which is the ideal drug, or what is the selection criteria for the drugs to be formulated as transdermal delivery system? The dose of the drug has to be less than 10 milligram per day. That means the drug has to be potent. Its half-life should not be more than 10 hours. The partition coefficient has to be within 1 to 3. That means the drug should not be too hydrophilic and polar, because otherwise it will have difficulty crossing the stratum corneum. And if it has got higher partition coefficient, that is above 3, then the drug may get concentrated or may get saturated only in the stratum corneum and will not go down through the viable epidermis. The molecular weight of the drug has to be less than 500 Daltons. Melting point should be less than 200 degrees Celsius. Skin permeability coefficient of the drug has to be more than 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 3 centimeter per hour. And most importantly, the skin reaction should not be there. That means the drug should not pose any irritation or itching, or should not sensitize the skin. If you look at the marketed formulations, I'm going back to the slides of the marketed formulations. If you just look at, I have also mentioned the melting points and the molecular weights of the drugs beneath the brands. And you can then see that most of the drugs have got melting point below 200 degrees Celsius. Rather, some of the drugs are actually liquid in nature, like say nicotine or nitroglycerin. And why this is necessary? Because the lower the melting point of the drug, higher is its thermodynamic activity, and better will be the permeability of the drug across the stratum corneum. Same thing holds true for molecular weight. If you just look at the molecular weights of all these drugs, they are way below 300. Daltons, and that actually helps in making see, because if the lesser the molecular weight, smaller is the molecular size, and better will be the diffusion coefficient of the drug. And so all these criteria need to be followed or need to be there in the drug to be able to deliver them as transdermal delivery systems. So if you just look at the history of the transdermal formulations, it started, the development of these transdermal delivery systems actually started somewhere in late 19th century, and it's still ongoing. And then if you look at all these transdermal delivery systems, we can categorize them as first generation transdermal delivery systems, second generation TDDS, and third generation TDDS. So first generation transdermal delivery system typically are shown here in this figure. They are matrix type of delivery system, reservoir type, multilaminate, and drug in adhesive. So you all are, I'm sure you all are well versed with these kind of first generation delivery system, wherein if you look at the drug in adhesive, there the drug is actually mixed with the adhesive, which is then applied to the backing membrane, and this backing layer is then attached onto the skin. In the matrix type of delivery system, there is polymer and drug which are mixed together to form a matrix, wherein the polymer behaves like a rate controlling substance and allows only the controlled delivery of the drug across the skin. In case of reservoir system, the drug is either dispersed or dissolved in gel or cream reservoir, and this gel or cream, and then the delivery of the drug from this reservoir is actually controlled by the polymeric barrier membrane. And similar thing goes on with the multilaminate type of the first generation transdermal delivery systems. So if you look at the typically marketed formulations, nitroglycerin patch or nicotine patches are the typical examples of first generation transdermal delivery systems. So what are the components of these transdermal delivery devices? There are solvents. So these solvents typically include water, methanol, ethanol, isopropanol, or acetone. So these actually help in dissolving, or dispersing the drug. Then you have plasticizers. So these plasticizers like dibutyl phthalate or triethyl citrate actually help in casting the proper films of the polymer. I think you cannot see the slides properly. Can you have a look at the slide clearly? Because I cannot see anything after the plasticizers. I hope you can see. But then otherwise you have plasticizers, and then you can actually have the backing membrane. So these backing membranes are actually made of aluminum foil or a certain polypropylene or HDPE. And these backing membranes prevent the drugs from getting lost from the other side of the transdermal patch. Then you have pressure sensitive adhesives. The pressure sensitive adhesives are made of they comprise either of, and then you also have, just a moment, and then you also have a release liner which will protect the patch from the other side. Just give me a moment. I'm trying to adjust my screen. Okay. So these are the essential components of the first generation transdermal delivery systems or devices. But the most important component is the permeation enhancer. So even if we have selected the even if we have selected the best and the most suitable drug candidate, the drug candidate finds it very difficult to cross the toughest barrier, that is stratum corneum. So for the disruption of this stratum corneum barrier, you need to use permeation enhancers. So you could either, I have shown you the structure of the skin, and I have also mentioned that there is a lipid matrix. Okay. Now, can you see the screens proper? Can you see the slides properly? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, as like, you know, there are corneocytes and keratin is present there, and then there is a lipid matrix which is present in the stratum corneum. So you need to disrupt this lipid matrix, and then you could use something like azone, oleic acid, isostearic acid, terpenes, or oxazolidones, which can help in liquidifying the lipid matrix or disrupt the lipid matrix, and that way the drug will find its entry across the stratum corneum into the dermis. Or you could actually use something like DMSO, that is dimethyl sulfoxide, or ethanol, which will help in extraction of the lipids, and that will create the channels for the drug to cross the stratum corneum. You can DMSO, or like, you know, permeation enhancer like dimethyl sulfoxide, also shows its action on keratin, and it can help in dissolving the keratin and helping the drug to pave its way through the corneocytes. Even ionic surfactants and urea can help or can show the action on keratin. Or simply you can use the solubility ethanol. So they actually render the drug highly soluble in the reservoir, and that way create a great concentration gradient, which will help in diffusion of the drug across the skin. So this was the account of first generation transdermal delivery systems. Now let's focus on second generation transdermal delivery. Now, thanks to, again, nanotechnology has actually given such brilliant nanoscopic carriers like liposomes, niosomes, ethosomes, transferosomes. All these are nanoscopic vesicular carriers which can help in carrying the lipophilic small drug molecules into the skin, into the deeper layers of the skin, or even across the skin. Some more are there, like pharmacosomes, vasosomes, and then you have other carriers like solid lipid nanoparticles, or polymeric nanoparticles and nanocapsules, which are made of chitosan, alginate, PLGA, or polyacrylates. Then you have another very good vehicle or a carrier for transdermal delivery, and that is microemulsion. And then you also have dendrimers. So all these nanoscopic carriers actually help in efficiently delivering the drug molecules across the stratum corneum, into the stratum corneum, or into the epidermis, or into the dermis, or also into the systemic circulation. So then, why do we need third generation transdermal delivery systems? If you typically look at the first and second generation transdermal delivery systems, they are only efficient in carrying small molecules which are lipophilic in nature into systemic circulation. But there is still a need for delivery of macromolecules or large molecules like proteins and peptides and vaccines and oligonucleotides or DNA. So these are too large the molecules that any of these first generation or second generation nanotechnology based carriers can carry across the skin. And so there is a need for third generation transdermal delivery system approaches. Now, if you look and look in the slide, there are these options, or there are these third generation TDDS approaches that I have listed over here, and they include microneedles, thermal ablation, microderm abrasion, electroporation, sonoporation. Barring microneedles, if you just look at the rest of the approaches, they need specialized devices to administer the drug across the skin. Moreover, they also need the skilled administrators. I mean, the patients themselves cannot go for thermal ablation or electroporation for the delivery of the drug across the skin. So these techniques, other than microneedles, all the other techniques require specialized devices and skilled personnel to administer the drug across the skin. Moreover, all these techniques actually involve irreversible damage to the skin. So I'm going to focus my discussion on microneedles. So what are microneedles? Microneedles are actually inspired by the hypodermic needles. So hypodermic needles are nothing but the needles that are attached to the syringe, and they are used to administer the drugs by parenteral routes such as subcutaneous, intravenous, intramuscular, or even intradermal routes. But microneedles are different to these hypodermic needles, though they are inspired from hypodermic needles. These microneedles for transdermal delivery were first patented in US in 1976. The microneedles actually comprise of solid or hollow cannula with an insertion length of approximately 20 to only 1,500 micrometer. The external diameter of the microneedle does not exceed 30 microns. So if you just look at the right hand corner, you can see a microneedle patch, and you can see those tiny microscopic microneedle arrays. So these microneedle arrays, they create the micron-sized pores in the skin to enhance the delivery of the drug across the skin. So how do they again differ from hypodermic needle? So hypodermic needles are large macroscopic in nature, whereas microneedles are microscopic in nature. Second major difference is when you insert a hypodermic needle in the skin or beneath the skin or into the muscles or into the vein, it leads to lot of pain, which is not come across in case of microneedles. Now, the reason for that is you need to go back to the structure of the skin. These microneedles actually pierce the skin only up to the level of viable epidermis. And these microneedle arrays do not enter into the dermis. And if you look at the structure of the skin, the sensory nerve endings are actually present only in the dermis. And so, because the microneedles do not touch or do not interfere with the sensory nerve endings, they do not create the sensation of the pain. And that's the biggest advantage of microneedle-based transdermal delivery. It is very, very ideal for the patient adherence, as they do not stimulate the nerves and they do not cause the pain. The other biggest advantage with the microneedle delivery system is self-administration is possible. In case of hypodermic needles or in case of any parenteral injection, one needs to go to the hospital or one needs to go to the clinic, and only a trained and certified nurse or the doctor can administer the formulation. But in case of microneedle-based delivery, self-administration is very much possible. And you will see this in the next slide, where you see a transdermal microneedle-based patch in the figure A. So this patch looks like just like a Band-Aid tape. Okay, so you just put out the release liner and press the patch onto the skin. So if you look in the third diagram, that is in the picture C or photo C, this is the actual way the microneedle patch will look like from inside. So this is the patch which actually has to be inserted into the skin. And after a few days, once the drug is delivered, there will be no more microneedle arrays which will be seen over there. And then in the last part of your diagram or the picture, you will see that this microneedle arrays have disappeared. Okay. So based on the shape of, based like, these microneedle arrays can be available in various shapes like conical or cylindrical or pyramid shape or octagonal shape. Okay. And the material of construction of this microneedle includes silicon, stainless steel, glass, ceramic, or polymers. Like there could be biodegradable polymers or non-degradable polymers that can actually form these microneedle arrays. Now, based on the mechanism of drug release, the microneedles can be divided into or classified into different types, like solid microneedles, coated microneedles, dissolving microneedles, hollow microneedles, and swellable microneedles. In the slide on the right hand side, you can see two pictures. These are the pictures of coated microneedles. And the first picture, you can see the shape of the microneedle array is pyramid. And on the right hand side, the picture that you can see there, the array shape is conical. Okay, this was just to show you, this is the scanning electron microscopic image of the coated microneedle. So now let's look at each type of microneedle one by one. So let's start off with the solid microneedle. Yes, anybody has problem? Sushmit? Is there any problem? Okay, okay. So these solid microneedles, as you can see the picture, they are made out of either silicone, and that those silicone microneedle arrays are fabricated by iron etching technique, or they could be made up of metal like stainless steel, and they could be fabricated by infrared laser cutting or photolithography, or they could even be made out of polymers by micromolding technique. So what are these solid microneedles? These solid microneedles do not contain any drug, or they do not themselves deliver any drug, but they are there just to create the microscopic holes in the skin with the help of these solid microneedles. So it's a two-step process. You just apply this solid microneedle patch onto the skin first, just to generate the microscopic channels or microchannels or microscopic holes in the skin. And in the step 2, subsequently, you can apply a transdermal patch or a cream or a gel formulation. So the microneedles are creating the microchannels, and these microchannels actually help in passive diffusion of the drug very easily after you apply the gel or the cream. So I'm just going to take up, yeah. Then you can have the microneedle roller. So what is this roller? Wherein the solid microneedles are actually mounted on the cylindrical surface. That surface can roll over the skin. So in the diagram or in the picture on the left hand side, you can see the microneedle roller. You have to roll this roller multiple times on the skin to create the microscopic channels. Alternatively, you can use a pen. At the tip of this pen, there are the arrays of solid microneedles. So this pen needs to be pressed onto the skin to generate the microscopic pores. Or else, on the right hand side in the picture, you can see a microneedle patch. So this solid microneedle patch has to be first pressed onto the skin, and then you can apply your gel or cream formulation on the same area. So these are just the means by which you actually create micropores and then apply your transdermal formulation. So let's take up a case study where the researchers Kaur M and their group actually used this microneedle rollers or admin patch. Admin patch is a patented solid microneedle patch marketed by Nanobiosciences. So it's nothing but a simple microneedle patch, solid microneedle patch made of stainless steel solid microneedles. So what these researchers did, they actually took two model drugs, verapamil hydrochloride and amlodipine bisilate. These are the two antihypertensive drugs. So they made the solutions of the drugs and they carried out the in vitro diffusion studies using France diffusion cells, and the barrier membrane that was used was untreated porcine skin. Okay. So, and then in the second set of the experiment, they treated the porcine skin with either the microneedle roller or the admin patch, and then they carried out the similar experiment. And what they found was that verapamil hydrochloride flux increased significantly from 8.75 to 49.96 microgram per centimeter square per hour when they went on to using the pre-treated skin. So there was almost like a 6-fold increase in the flux of verapamil hydrochloride when the porcine skin was earlier treated with microneedle roller. Similarly, amlodipine bisilate flux also was found to enhance to 1.05 microgram per centimeter square per hour when the porcine skin was pre-treated with the microneedle roller. In case of untreated skin, the flux was found to be only 0.19 microgram per centimeter square per hour. The similar study was used or done using admin patch. So instead of applying the microneedle roller, they treated the porcine skin with admin patch, and then they carried out the similar studies for finding out the flux of amlodipine bisilate. And the flux was found to enhance to 22.39 micrograms per centimeter square per hour after the treatment with the admin patch. So you can see how much difference this solid microneedle pre-treatment can make to efficiently carry out or to efficiently deliver the hydrophilic drugs like verapamil hydrochloride across the skin. The second type of microneedles are coated microneedles. So here, as the name suggests, the microneedles are coated with the drug-containing dispersion. So the solid microneedles are taken, and these solid microneedles are either made of silicone or metal. And these solid microneedles are then subjected to dip coating or spray coating or electrohydrodynamic atomization technique. Now, the coating efficiency of the charged APIs like DNA or nucleic acids can be enhanced by electrostatic forces. That means you can make your microneedle array positively charged to enhance the efficiency of the coating of the negatively charged drugs through electrostatic attractive forces. The only disadvantages of these coating microneedles is one can apply very small dose of the drug in the form of the coating, because see, you can imagine the microneedles are actually microscopic in nature. So how much drug can be loaded onto the microneedles, and then if you try to give more layers or more coating of the drug around the microneedle arrays, that will reduce the penetrability of these arrays into the skin. So you cannot increase the thickness of the coating. So you can apply only thin coating to the microscopic arrays, and that is the reason why one can deliver only small doses, typically less than 1 milligram. So if you just look at the figure over here, in the first picture you can see the microneedles coated with the drug, And then once you insert these microneedles into the skin, the drug is released instantaneously, and then you can remove the microneedle patch. Now let's take up the case study of coated microneedles. So this group of researchers, what they did was they actually coated the PEG lidocaine dispersions around the solid stainless steel microneedles. And this was actually compared, the flux of lidocaine was then compared with the marketed commercial lidocaine cream. And what they found was the microneedle coated with PEG lidocaine dispersions significantly resulted in significantly higher delivery of lidocaine in just 3 minutes as compared to 1 hour topical application of commercial lidocaine cream. Now, despite application of approximately 1,854 lower dose of lidocaine using microneedles, approximately twice the amount of lidocaine was delivered into the skin using coated microneedle within just 3 minutes, okay, as compared to 1 hour of application time that was needed for the cream. So the next type of microneedles is hollow microneedles. So as the name suggests here, the microneedles are hollow. So they do not have, just like hypodermic needles, as the hypodermic needles have got a hollow bore inside them, this microneedles also have got a cavity inside them. So these microneedles, with the help of these microneedles, drugs can be actually injected as bolus or at varied infusion rate through the skin. So these are very much useful for administration of larger dose with precision and controlled rate. These are specifically useful for delivery of proteins and oligonucleotides and vaccines. Hollow microneedles are fabricated using various materials like silicone, metal, glass, and ceramic. So here in the picture, left-hand side, you can actually see, I mean, this looks like a typical syringe and needle kind of a picture. So there you have a syringe, but to this syringe, what you have attached here is microneedle patch and not the hypodermic needle. In the right-hand picture, you can see a single bevel-shaped hollow glass microneedle, and this can be used for actually micro-infusion. Now, the fabrication of these hollow microneedles can be done with the help of laser micromachining, deep reactive ion etching, integrated lithographic molding, chemical etching, or even with the help of X-ray photolithography. So Davis et al. In 2005, they actually used these hollow metallic microneedles for the delivery of the hormone called insulin. Now, this hollow metallic microneedles could efficiently pierce the living skin of the rats. So the study was conducted in the rats, where the diabetic rats were injected with the insulin using metallic microneedles. These metallic microneedles could efficiently pierce the living skin without breaking. A glass chamber was actually filled with insulin solution, and that was adhered to the base of the microneedle array patch, which served as a drug reservoir. And what they observed was that the insulin, the delivery of the insulin through these hollow microneedles could actually bring down the glucose levels in the rats by 53% over the period of 4 hours. So isn't it a very remarkable revolution in the field of insulin delivery? But because for the years together, people have been trying to deliver insulin through non-invasive routes, but it is being not very successful. But microneedles like this actually show a great potential for delivering the insulin painlessly and without any degradation or without any first pass effect. There have been attempts to deliver microRNA, short interfering RNA, as well as antisense nucleotides using the approach of hollow microneedles. Now, going on to the next type of microneedles, and they are called as dissolving microneedles. So these dissolving microneedles are fabricated on poke and release principle. They are actually made of soluble or biodegradable materials such as polysaccharides, PLGA, chitosan, polycaprolactone, or hyaluronic acid. So unlike the previous microneedles, which were typically made of glass or metal, dissolving microneedles are actually made of biodegradable polymers like chitosan or hyaluronic acid. The preferred method of fabrication of these microneedles is micromolding using polydimethyl siloxane molds coated with platinum to avoid sticking. Or you could also make these kind of microneedles using ultrasonic welding. So if you just look at the picture over here, you see the microneedle arrays are made out of polymers in which the drug is dispersed into it. So once you insert these microneedle into the skin, the polymer starts dissolving and releasing the drug. And after some time, there is no drug and there is no polymer because you are using biodegradable polymer. Now, this was the recent case studies which was done by Dong and his group in 2018, where they prepared the dissolving microneedles in which they added doxorubicin and gold nanocages. So this doxorubicin and nanocage loaded microneedles for chemo and photothermal therapy of superficial skin tumor treatment in mice was studied. Hyaluronic acid was used as a polymer for preparing these microneedles. If you know that the tumor cells actually overexpress hyaluronidase. Hyaluronidase is an enzyme which will degrade hyaluronic acid. So once these microneedles comprising of hyaluronic acids were inserted into the mouse model, the hyaluronidase expressed by the tumor cells actually degraded the hyaluronic acid, releasing doxorubicin and gold nanocages. The microneedles were found to dissolve in just 5 minutes upon application, and significant tumor growth control was observed upon 4 administrations of microneedle formulations over the period of just 9 days. So these dissolving microneedles are far more superior, and they are much more researched, and there have been attempts to deliver insulin, low molecular weight heparin, adenovirus vectors, and various antigens using the approach of dissolving microneedles. The last type of microneedle that I'm going to discuss now are hydrogel forming microneedles. So these microneedles are based on aqueous polymeric gels that are capable of super swelling. What they do is these hydrogel based microneedle arrays, once they are inserted into the skin, they imbibe the interstitial skin fluid and undergo extensive swelling. After swelling, they form the channels between the dermal microcirculation and the patch type reservoir. So microneedles initially act as a tool to penetrate stratum corneum. Upon swelling, they become rate controlling membranes. Now here, if you just look at the picture down below, the microneedle arrays are neither coated with the drug nor do they contain the drug over there. The drug is actually present in the base plate, which is at the top of the microneedle array. And this base plate containing the drug, which will rest on the surface of the skin, will act like a drug depot. Now, these kind of microneedles can be fabricated in wide range of patch sizes and geometries. They can be easily sterilized. They, in fact, resist the whole closure while they are in place. That is because if you just look at this diagram, the second picture, once you insert the microneedle patch into the skin, the microneedle arrays undergo excessive swelling, and since they're swollen, there will be no hole closure. Okay, and then the drug will be actually going at the controlled rate from the reservoir into the skin. So once the drug has been completely released, one can actually remove the patch intact from the skin. So there was this study which was done in 2014 where they combined the Gantrez S97 polymer. This Gantrez S97 is a copolymer of methyl vinyl ether and malic anhydride. This Gantrez in combination with PEG 10,000 and sodium carbonate was tried as a super swelling matrix. It was tried as a super swelling matrix. The microneedle array was attached to the lyophilized wafer of the reservoir containing ibuprofen sodium. So once they actually, when they use this microneedle patch in the in vitro diffusion studies, they found that there was 44 milligram of the drug to be permeated across the porcine skin. So this 44 milligram of the drug actually formed almost like 40% of the drug load in the reservoir. So that is quite a large quantity that you can see being permeated in vitro diffusion studies. And when they did the in vivo studies in rats, it showed attainment of therapeutic concentrations of the drug within 1 hour of application of the patch. And the Tmax was attained at 6 hours. The similar studies were done using ovalbumin as a model drug. Okay, instead of ibuprofen sodium, now they incorporated ovalbumin in the reservoir, and to their great surprise, they found that ovalbumin blood concentration peaked within 1 hour of application of microneedle patch, and it stayed constant for next 6 hours. So that's quite a significant finding when it comes to use of hydrogel forming microneedle patch. So now we have seen all the types of microneedles, and we have seen the advantages of these microneedles. Now here you can see 44 milligram of ibuprofen sodium. Like ibuprofen sodium is a small molecule, but please understand that it's a very polar molecule. So if you typically look at the transdermal delivery system, it is unable to deliver polar molecules across the skin into systemic circulation. But here, with the hydrogel forming microneedles, they could deliver a large quantity of ibuprofen sodium into systemic circulation in vivo during in vivo studies. But then there are, like how we have seen the advantages, there are challenges as well. So the biggest challenge that the microneedle delivery can face is the irritation upon application to the skin. Microbial contamination is another possibility. Delivery of therapeutically relevant concentrations of drugs is difficult. That's because you see that microneedles are very, very tiny and microscopic. So they have a very limited capacity of loading the drug and loading the dose. Limited choice of appropriate biomaterials, difficulty in fabrication and manufacturing. We have seen varieties of techniques like iron etching or lithography or laser cutting, but these are all very difficult to optimize, and they also find difficulty in large scale manufacturing. Lack of mechanical strength is another disadvantages of these microneedle arrays, because you can see they are very small and tiny, so they could break while you are piercing them against or putting them against the skin. And if they are broken while applying, then the pieces of these microneedle arrays can get stuck inside the skin. Then there is also a poor control of drug delivery. And then there's a possibility of clogging of micro channels that are actually created through microneedles. But see, any like, you know, if you look at any coin, any coin has got the plus two sides, that is a plus side and a negative side. So these are the challenges which one needs to overcome while thinking about putting the drug into microneedle based delivery systems. But looking at the positive side, influenza virus vaccine based microneedle patch has actually successfully completed phase 1 trial. Okay, now on the left hand side you see the picture of Professor Mark Prausnitz. He is a great researcher from Georgia Institute of Technology, USA. He and his research group has been consistently working in the field of microneedle based drug delivery and vaccine delivery systems. And with their great efforts, they've been able to deliver influenza virus vaccine across the skin. And the phase 1 trials have been completed successfully, and they have found a large or huge number of antibody titers after application of this influenza virus vaccine patch. So now this particular patch is in the phase 2 of the clinical trial. And if the patch actually successfully completes phase 2 and phase 3 trials, these influenza virus vaccine can actually see the daylight of the market. And it will be a big boon, and it will be a big revolution in the field of vaccine delivery, because we know that most of the small children are vaccinated, and they have to be vaccinated using intradermal or intramuscular route, which is very, very painful. And so the small children and toddlers are very scared, and they cry a lot, and it's painful for the children as well as for their parents. Moreover, the parents have to take the toddlers to the physician or to the clinic for immunization. But if such virus vaccine, or if such vaccine comes into a transdermal patch, then it would be a great means of delivering the vaccine and immunizing the small children with painless delivery, and the delivery can be done even at home. So it's going to be a great breakthrough if these kind of vaccines or this kind of patches delivering the vaccine successfully complete phase 2 and phase 3 phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials. So to summarize, transdermal delivery is a non-invasive, convenient, and patient-friendly option for presenting the drugs in controlled manner to the systemic circulation. Field of transdermal delivery has seen a lot of evolution with the advent of nanotechnology. First and second generation transdermal delivery systems allow for the delivery of only lipophilic small molecules. So the quest for new carriers and new techniques still continues. Microneedles have shown potential to permeate hydrophilic small molecules as well as the macromolecules like proteins, peptides, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, as well as antigens. Now, potential applications in the field of diagnostics and cosmeceuticals have also been there for these microneedles. Large-scale manufacturing is possible, like large-scale manufacturing of microneedles is very much possible due to advances in 3D printing technology. So to conclude, microneedles is a painless, patient-friendly, promising third-generation transdermal delivery system, which surely has a bright future. And with this, I thank you all for your patience. I know first hour we have spent only in all the technical glitches, but I hope I've been able to deliver this session rightly to you at least later that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Anybody have questions? Sorry, anybody have questions, please? Yeah. Madam, somebody asking whether it is possible to share the presentation.
Yeah. I will.
Yeah, Mohammed, yeah, that will be done.
So where is your student who had a lot of questions, or I don't know, some faculty
Yeah, I'm just
who are
unmuting
supposed to
them.
have a lot of questions?
Yeah, I'm unmuting them.
Yeah.
Give me 2 minutes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Suvarsha, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see any
Ma'am.
unmuting option from your side? We have to unmute attendees so that they can ask the questions.
Yeah. Prakash sir is unmuting everyone, sir.
Okay.
So that everyone could.
Okay.
Themselves, they have to unmute, sir, if they have any queries.
Okay. Students, it's a question and answer.
From
So,
our side,
if anybody wanted to ask the question, please unmute yourself and ask the question. We're closing the session. Hello.
Hello.
Anybody?
So,
Students? Hello. Are they unmuted? Suvarsha?
actually, the topic is very interesting, sir, and the modern topic like micro needles in the transdermal patches was so interesting, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, it was.
No questions, Suvarsha, from student side?
No, sir, no one is responding. I think they are.
I think they have some problem with
Unmuting.
unmuting because there should be some disturbance coming from their
Yeah.
side. If they
From
are
our side, we have given the chance to unmute themselves.
okay, can we send that message?
Only the students
Because
are asking for the
we
PDF
can
from
do
madam
another
to
question
send.
and answer session for some time. That will be more interactive actually.
Sorry?
Yeah, sir.
We can run this question and answer session for some time, at least 5-10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why, please at least leave a message in the WhatsApp group to unmute themselves. Because I don't see anybody unmuted themselves. There are no attendees like that. Otherwise, we would have got a lot of disturbance from their side.
Yeah, right.
It seems everybody muted. Okay. So, ma'am, actually, I just called to Nandakumar.
Okay.
It seems he's busy with some other webinars.
Okay.
He wanted to speak to you, and that
Yeah.
he will call in the evening.
Okay. No problem. Yeah. So if there are no questions, we can close.
Yeah, Suvarsha.
Yeah, I think Keith Reddy, some student, she's asking
Okay, let them
a
ask.
question, I think so.
Yeah, because even I can't hear any
My
disturbance. Because when
question,
We will
Yeah.
pass the question, ma'am. If they
on behalf of Keith Reddy, there is a
Yeah.
question, sir.
okay.
She's asking, what is the scope of turning ethosomes into transdermal patches?
see, it's possible to put ethosomes through, or you see, this microneedle delivery is basically physical way of overcoming the stratum corneum barrier. So there have been a lot of attempts where people have put nanoparticulate delivery systems through microneedles. So please understand, microneedle delivery systems are basically the physical barrier. I mean, they are the physical way or means of overcoming the barrier of stratum corneum, because what they do is, with these microneedle arrays can pierce across the stratum corneum and viable epidermis. So which is the biggest barrier. So once you overcome that barrier, you can actually deliver liposomes or ethosomes or say nanoparticles, anything through that. You can actually have hollow microneedles and actually deliver the ethosomes across it, or you can even disperse the ethosomes into the dissolving type of microneedles and then make a delivery system that will be very efficient.
Another question from her side only, on
Yeah.
behalf of Keith Reddy.
Yeah.
She's asking that she have made some liposomal gel,
Okay.
and she's asking that can I extend it into patches and do my PhD work on it?
You can do that. Only thing is you will not be able to put it in micro needles. So what I would suggest, my suggestion would be, you can go both ways. One is where you use ethosome based gel as a reservoir, and then give a coating, or place a coating of polymeric barrier membrane, and then make a transdermal delivery system out of it. Or else what you can do is you just take the simple ethosomes and try to fabricate microsomal drug delivery, I mean microneedle based drug delivery using it. See, for making the microneedles now, the latest technique is 3D printing. So if you can catch hold of, or if your institute has got engineering department and they have a 3D printer, or if you could collaborate with someone who has a 3D printer, then it is a one-step process to actually prepare microneedles. It's difficult. I'm not saying, I mean, it's not as easy as I'm talking that, it's a one-step process and it's a commercializable process or scalable process with the help of 3D printing. But then with 3D printing, preparation of microneedle has become much easier. So if you can collaborate with some 3D, somebody who has a 3D printer, then it's a very efficient, or it would be a great PhD project where you deliver your ethosomes through microneedles.
Ma'am, there is another question from another girl.
Okay.
What she is asking is, what is the scope of cubosomes for delivery of polar drugs?
Yeah, cubosome has got great scope, because cubosomes are, as you all know, are made out of surfactants, and it's a typical structure that these surfactants can form, and they can get into the cubosome kind of microstructure. So one can deliver polar molecules or polar small molecules using the approach of cubosomes, and it's been used very frequently as a second generation transdermal delivery system. So yeah, it's a good approach.
Okay. And there is also another question. Mahinder, he's asking that, is it possible to make transdermal patches brain disorder for drugs?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. I couldn't hear
It is
clearly.
okay, ma'am. I'll give it again. Is it possible to make transdermal patches for brain disorder drugs?
Yeah, very much possible. In fact, there have been attempts to make, donepezil hydrochloride. Donepezil hydrochloride is a drug that is shown potential in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so and there have been attempts to prepare microneedle based transdermal delivery system using donepezil hydrochloride. Even if you see the marketed formulations that I have shown, siligeline and rotaglutine, these two drugs are actually formulated as transdermal delivery systems for the treatment of Parkinsonism. And Parkinsonism is a CNS drug. I mean, it's a CNS disorder. So there are already drugs available in the market for the treatment of treatment for brain delivery using transdermal patches.
Okay. And there is another student from Dhanvantri. She's asking that, how long does it take to see results from microneedles when we give some drug?
Yeah, see, there have been studies, as I have shown, like, the coated microneedles with lidocaine and PEG dispersion, actually that delivered the drug across the skin in just 3 minutes.
Okay. Just
So,
3 minutes it can
within 3 minutes, it delivered the entire drug. And then, like, if you look at the hydrogel-based microneedles, they are giving you the sustained release. So once they are pierced, I mean, they could give you the release over the period of 24 hours or even longer, because they themselves do not dissolve, right? So they form kind of the a hydrogel structure, and they retard the release of the drug which is there in the reservoir. So they give a very sustained kind of delivery. It all depends
One
on
last
the
question, ma'am.
material. Yeah, it depends on the material of the microneedle array. And then, as I've
Okay.
told, as I've shown, hollow microneedles. With hollow microneedles, see, they are just acting like like, you know, they overcome the barrier of the stratum corneum, and they act like the hypodermic needles, right? With the hollow bore. So one can actually deliver the drug at constant rate using the reservoir which is on the surface of the skin. And you can control the you know, there could be a pump, a micro infusion pump, and this pump can control the release of the drug from the reservoir through hollow microneedles, and that can go on for even days together.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Madam, one last question. One
Yeah.
girl, Lakshmi, she is asking that, is it important to know the boiling point of active ingredients in PGDS?
Yes, not the boiling. I mean, you know, some are actually liquids like nitroglycerin or nicotine are the liquids. And if they are liquid drugs, then you don't even have to look at their boiling points, because because if the solid drug can go across the, if that solid drug can go across the skin, then liquid drug can definitely go.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. But usually the drugs that are available in the market, their boiling points are quite low, if you have seen. It's only 60 degrees Celsius for nicotine or 93 degrees Celsius, if I'm not wrong, for the nitroglycerin and all.
Okay, ma'am. That's all, ma'am. Ravikant sir?
Yes, sir. Madam,
Yeah.
thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah. No problem.
It is really stimulating to our students, especially during this COVID-19.
Yeah, but some people, I think some are still asking questions that I could see in your question answer
Any
box
questions?
or in the chat. I could see some
Is there any
questions.
Yes, there are some questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can take one or two more questions, not a problem.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Sorsha, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Are the microneedles better than nanoparticles in TDS?
Yes, definitely. Because nanoparticles can deliver only small molecules, and you may never know whether these nanoparticles are able to actually give you systemic delivery of the drug. See, because many times what happens, liposomes or solid lipid nanoparticles, they deliver the drug into the stratum corneum, into viable epidermis, or into dermis. But the drug need not necessarily reach the systemic circulation. Whereas with microneedles, the drug can surely reach systemic circulation. So if you want transdermal delivery, or if you want a systemic effect, then microneedles is definitely a better choice than nanoparticles. Nanoparticles or these liposomes or microemulsions are mainly used, if you see, they are mainly used to achieve the delivery of the drug into deeper layers of the skin rather than into systemic circulation. So yes, microneedles are definitely a better choice than nanoparticles.
Okay, ma'am. Another question is that if the patient's skin is very sensitive, then can he use microneedle treatment?
Yeah, see, because again, it depends upon the material of construction of microneedle. So if the microneedles are made out of innocuous polymers, like, you know, which are natural polymers like hyaluronic acid and all, it should not cause any problem to the skin. Yes, but then I have also marked the disadvantages of microneedles, and that is like skin irritation and all that. So if the patient's skin is extra sensitive, and you know, you insert, say, metallic microneedles or some microneedles made out of the polymers to which the patient could be, you know, the skin could be sensitive to, then the patient will show the reaction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am, by inserting these microneedles into the skin,
Yeah.
There will be any side effects? Huh?
No, see, because most of these microneedles are actually, just barely crossing the stratum corneum and a viable
Okay.
epidermis. So it's not going to lead to any side effects. And many of the
Yeah.
microneedles are based on biodegradable polymers. So even if they stay, even if the microneedle arrays stay within the skin for a long time, say for a day or two, the polymer is also going to get degraded, and the degradation products will get excreted from the system. So it should not cause any harm or side effect.
Yeah, actually, when we listen the word needle, everybody get the instinct that it is going to hurt.
Nobody doesn't hurt. That is the biggest advantage, because it doesn't cross the dermis.
Yeah, yes, that's
Because
correct, ma'am. Yeah,
yeah, and though there are no sensory nerves in
yeah,
present on the surface, in the stratum corneum or in the epidermis.
yes,
So microneedles reach only up to there.
yes, that's the point. Yes.
Yeah, that is the main point. Yeah.
Suvarsha, are we done?
Yeah, sir. Yes,
Shall we close?
successfully. Yeah, sir. It's time for Thanksgiving to ma'am.
You want to tell anything?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, sir. I would like to give thanks on behalf of our Dhanvantri. Sir, will you?
Yeah, I'm ready. But if you want to tell, you can. What is there?
No problem, sir. You continue, sir.
Madam, on behalf of our faculty and management, wanted to thank you for your insightful presentation, ma'am.
Yeah, thank
Your
you.
slides gave us very close look at the transdermal patch, especially about microneedles. It is marvelous. It is practical and deepest. And even I doubt that many B Pharmacy and third and final year students, they may not catch easily.
Yeah.
Very
I understand
for
that.
M Pharmacy and some other research.
Yeah. Those who know at least little bit about transdermal delivery will be able to understand this.
Yeah,
but undergrads, it's difficult.
Difficult, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Also, we thank for your patience that shown during signal.
Yeah. And I was very surprised that my laptop actually, when I shifted to mobile, then it worked well. But, so far I've given all my online lectures. I've attended all the webinars on my laptop. And even when we did the trial earlier with you, it was perfectly working well. But I don't know what went wrong at the end. Anyway.
Yeah.
But it teaches us a lot of things, right?
Next we want speakers to keep mobile ready.
Yeah. It teaches us so many things, that is what it is. Yeah.
We have backup next time.
Yeah.
Though there are, many video records available online, direct guru is guru.
Yeah. That's why pharmacy and all that cannot be learned by distance learning. It has to be taught. And you need a guru everywhere.
And also, ma'am, there are very few people with the fluency and subject. I always remember you because I know personally, not only you just have very good fluency.
Yeah.
And it teaches students very easily. When we conduct these webinars, there is no distraction.
Yeah, right.
That is very helpful in that case.
Yes.
And thanks once again, ma'am, for your valuable time.
Yeah. It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. So I think you are sharing a feedback link. Please share the feedback with me. Whatever, so that it's useful for me for my future presentations.
Definitely, ma'am. We will do that. And also, we have recorded this video. And share, and with your permission, we can keep it in our YouTube channel. We have created one YouTube channel.
Okay.
We can keep it there for the students' access.
Oh yeah, sure. No problem. In fact, if you could share that link with me, some of my students and some of actually my faculty members wanted to listen to it. So I would then share that YouTube link, or you can just send me the recording and then I can share it with them also. Okay. Because some of them wanted to join, but they couldn't join in because again, they were into some other webinars. And so if you could share the recording with me, that will be great.
Okay, ma'am. That will be done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Will be-
But please do not circulate this to other universities or other colleges, because only those who have attended, I think they should get the link for it, not
yes,
everyone.
that is correct, ma'am.
That's-
We will take care
yeah.
of it. Thanks for
Yeah,
your
please,
advice, ma'am.
please.
Yeah.
And I can share the presentation, not a problem.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Forward, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Tomorrow session will be there.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank
sure,
you so much.
Yeah. Thanks. And then
It is the most
Ravikant-
worthwhile experience.
Okay. Yeah. Same here. So Ravikant, you
It
can
was an
just,
outstanding webinar presentation by you, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thanks.
Madam.
So Ravikant,
Okay.
if you can call me separately, I think that will be great.
Okay, ma'am. I'll do that. May I call immediately? Or?
Yeah, immediately.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, ma'am. See you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Now,
Yeah.
tomorrow's session will be continued with the same experience at 11
Yeah.
o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you so much.